And so here we are out in a native pasture paddock. If you watched the previous video, you would have heard me talk about the two general types of pastures we have on our farm. Tame pastures, which used to be cropland, and then native pastures, which have never been plowed or cultivated or anything like that. So this is one of those native pastures. That's a big thicket of hawthorn right there. Excellent source of food for birds, all those little berries. We don't have a lot of hawthorn on the farm, but a little bit. I don't mind it. So berries are good. The thorns are, if I can get that to focus, the thorns are a little bit nasty. But actually the sheep can just walk underneath all of those thorns. Most of the thorns tend to be up a little bit higher, protecting the berries and the leaves, so the sheep don't mind them at all. This particular native pasture has been grazed so far this year once by sheep, once really briefly by the cows, and then we're going to put the cows back in here in another little bit. But I guess the things to notice about the native pasture is, well, there's more brush, more trees. Those are some poplar trees. There's some, we call it wolf willow. I've heard it called silver willow. Some of that. We call this stuff badger brush. I can't remember. I've heard different names for it. More of that, more brush. There really wasn't any of that in the tame pastures. More variety of grasses as well. This is some big blue stem. It's a desirable grass. Lots and lots of different types of plants. This stuff's pretty tall. I'm 6'7", and I'm holding this up. Holding the camera here up about neck level, and that is about a 5-foot chunk of grass. So yeah, these native paddocks just in general have a much higher diversity than the tame paddocks. I mean, we've tried to introduce as much diversity as we can on the tame pastures, but it still just doesn't rival what the native pastures can do. As you can see, there is a little bit of milk vetch that's been introduced by the sheep. The sheep have grazed somewhere else and then come in here and pooped, and boom, you get milk vetch. But it's most of this, and there's some thistle and those sorts of things, but we don't worry too much about that. All of that is sheep food. They'll eat pretty much anything, so we never really get too concerned about having weeds and that sort of thing. I mean, we don't want to have it completely taken over by weeds, but we don't get too worried about having a few different types of weeds around. The sheep will eat it. So as you can see here, there's a ton of grass out here. As I said, this has been grazed twice. Once fairly heavily by the sheep in the spring, and then a little bit of top grazing by the cows. But our native pastures just produce a tremendous amount of grass. Now, we've had some rains this year, which is definitely helpful, but even on a drier year, there's a lot of grazing out here. We rotationally graze, so that means we're moving the animals around the farm from one pasture to the other, so they never really stay for a huge length of time in any one pasture. And of course, we have two different species of grazing animal. We have the pigs as well. They move a little bit, but it's mostly the cows and the sheep. And so we're moving the two different species around, they eat different things. I mean, there's some overlap, but they definitely do eat different things, and so you can, they kind of complement one another that way. So we're walking up on a hill here. And if you're wondering why these pastures weren't cultivated or plowed, that is the reason why. If they are full of stones, and these stones are big and they're everywhere, and so it just wasn't practical or cost effective to plow these things up, 75, 100 years ago. And so they just got left as pasture for cattle, which is great for us. We love these native pastures. They're just kind of amazing, especially if you can manage them well. As you can see, there's another huge rock. And they're just full of cool stuff. There's some buffalo rubs out here from obviously a long time ago. And quite a diversity of wildlife in addition to the grass and legumes. But this is one of my favorite spots on the farm. It's just cool. We've got some maple trees there, right there, and there, and another one way back there, and then there's a little one there. Hawthorn, and they're just really amazing. Huge diversity in terms of grasses, huge diversity in terms of wildlife. Just amazing pastures, and we just love them. So that's what our native pastures look like. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment. We'll do our best to get back to you. If there's something in particular you'd like to see that I didn't cover, let us know that too, and we'll do our best to make a little video. So this video making mood that I'm in at the moment probably won't last, but so if there's something you want to see, let us know soon, and I'll try to put something together. So there you go, native pastures.